We're at a time where everything is available all the time. Art and everything about it is available everywhere. This includes art tutorials and probably every art question under the sun discussed, debated, and tutored. And almost in every piece of advice given, there's always, or almost always, this famous saying, "You can improve by practicing and working on your fundamentals." Well, what are these fundamentals everyone keeps talking about anyway? And how can you work on them in an art context? This is where this video comes in. Today we explore the most important fundamentals in hope of helping you figure out what they are and how you can integrate them in your learning process.
If you are looking for a place to sell artwork, graphics, designs, plugins, and fonts, or if you are looking for images, illustrations, templates, icons, and so on, MasterBundles might be the place for you. It is an online store that offers a huge library of graphics such as logos, badges, textures, backgrounds, and t-shirts. There are also fonts and plugins for Photoshop, Illustrator, and Lightroom. In addition to that, there are Procreate brushes, templates, and stock content that are created by talented artists from all over the world and gathered in one place. The website offers an opportunity for graphic designers to sell their designs and products. In exchange, it gets a percentage of each sale, but they will help you with the marketing and SEO. To publish your work, click Add Product, and this will redirect you to the Sell Your Deal page where you get a form that helps you upload and describe your product, things such as the title, description, and a few preview images. You can also specify the price and the category of the product, and even add videos and pick the file type. After that, you hit Publish. If you are interested in MasterBundles, follow the links in the description below.
Yeah, the kryptonite of every artist ever. Anatomy is arguably the most important fundamental to get down. It's incredibly important for an artist to understand how the body of their subject works, in order for them to be able to either create realistic and believable looking figures or stylize them and make them their own, but in a way that is aware and intentional, in order for their stylization to make sense to the human brain and be interpreted accurately. Usually, anatomy can be studied by breaking down muscles and bones and how they interact, how the neck and shoulder muscles connect to the head, how the forearm connects to the elbow and hand, or how women's bodies are morphed differently than men's. We could go on and on about this, but we're sure you get the idea. As previously mentioned, anatomy is often learned by observing the muscle and the bone structure of the human body. We suggest you grab a medical anatomy book and a 3D model of the human flesh and bone, or whatever your subject is, really. This study can be focused instead of broad. Let's say you have trouble painting collarbones. Go ahead and study how our bones and flesh mesh to create a collarbone. You'll most likely remember this breakdown every time you try to paint collarbones, and it will help you create something realistic and recognizable. You might be thinking, anatomy and gesture separated into two elements? What? That doesn't make sense. They're like the same thing. Well, not really. While in anatomy, you'll be studying how things work together and connect to each other, gesture will help you understand how our body flows and will help you build confidence in your lines as you do it. It's all about essence, flow, movement, and rhythm. It will make your drawings look smooth and not stiff. If you don't couple your anatomy practice with gesture, your characters will look constipated. Think of it this way. Gesture is about making what you're drawing look natural and not robotic. A great way to practice this is to go to lineofaction.com. It has a great variety of practice material that is timed and set up for you. You won't have to manually set up things yourself or try to find pictures. Color theory helps you use colors cohesively and in an interesting way that can really change a piece of art. This is why it's considered an art fundamental, and an important one at that. Understanding colors and, most importantly, how they behave and affect each other is very important because, believe it or not, colors actually change and look different when they're surrounded by different colors. Another thing is understanding what different colors convey. Reds convey warmth, and blues convey a cool atmosphere, and so on. Bright colors also pop best if surrounded by dark colors. If you understand all of that, you can convey meaning and literally direct the eye of the viewer where you want them to go. It's the closest thing to magic. For instance, one of my favorite paintings of all time is The Execution of Lady Jane Grey by Paul Delaroche, and it just happens to be the perfect example of all of what I just explained. Jane being wrongfully executed and being only 17, naive, scared, and innocent is adorned in bright white in the centerpiece, simultaneously conveying her innocence and forcing you to notice her first and foremost. This genius usage can be found in a plethora of the paintings done by the old masters, John Sargent, Van Gogh, etc. It would be great to take their work, study it to understand their thinking process, and perhaps replicate it for your own project. Studying color can seem unimportant, especially if you're, say, an anime artist, but everything in art heavily relies on the basics. Following colors and also incredibly important are lighting and shading. Understanding how light and different lighting situations interact with objects, how they wrap around them, whether they're reflected or if they bounce off of them or not, it's all very important. Of course, the natural reaction of the absence of light is shadow, and that is also very important to understand. For instance, how warm lights produces cool shadows, and how cool lights produces warm shadows. This is an incredible and valuable lesson to learn in art fundamentals that can take your art from bland to interesting, and give it this je ne sais quoi. For instance, a glossy surface will for sure have light that bounces off of it and affect its surroundings. Latex red pants will for sure reflect its color on the floor. And even matte surfaces, say like a regular fabric shirt, it will definitely reflect light on your face, albeit very minimally, but it's still there. Perspective is fundamental for a reason, especially if you're drawing things in a 3D space and want to do it from an interesting and eye-catching angle. Understanding how a 3D space works will help tremendously in building a believable and immersive environment, and thus experience for the user. Perspective is pretty hard to nail down, as are other fundamentals, and that is due to the fact that representing a 3D space in a 2D surface and using 2D means can be quite challenging. It's quite literally about creating an illusion. It's also about understanding how 3D shapes work and then translating that to a 2D shape. No wonder a lot of artists find it very hard to do just right. Breaking down perspective using grids and guidelines can be a very helpful way to approach this concept in an easy and digestible way. Perhaps you can study a piece of work using these guidelines. A master of this domain, and honestly every domain of art ever, is the one and only Kim Jung-gi. He flawlessly and effortlessly draws almost anything and everything from a perspective, perfectly and with no guides needed. You can absolutely take his work and put guidelines on it, and not only it will be accurate and correct, but you can also learn a lot from it. Thanks to the internet, a lot of what he does and how he does it is heavily documented. So you can watch him work in real time, and we bet you can learn a lot about perspective from that, if you are observant enough. Composition. Yeah, my arch nemesis. When I first learned about it, I couldn't wrap my head around it or around its importance. Fear not though, I'm here to dumb it down for you, my friend. Or at least I'll try. If we want to be very basic in defining it, let's say this. remember what we said about colors and how they can direct your eye to look at a certain thing and then other elements and establish hierarchy of importance of sorts? Well, that's composition for you, but with shapes and colors. It's all about composing your piece. Remember when we were kids and we wanted to draw a house and all that? We always put the house in the center because it's the most important set piece in our drawing. It was big, in the center, and front-facing, all because we were thinking, hey, I want to draw a house. So naturally, it was the important thing, so it was drawn in a way that emphasized that. Let's take, for instance, Christina's World by Andrew Wyeth. Notice how the closest thing to the camera is the girl. She's in pastel pink that contrasts the field's dull beiges. The houses are so far enshrouded in darkness. This serves several purposes. First, it establishes a hierarchy of importance. The girl comes first, which is why you notice her first, the field second, and the house third. Second, it conveys the distance and the helplessness of the girl with her size in comparison to the field, as she's posed in the middle of the field and in a perspective that shows her smallness. Not to mention how she's posed and the color of her dress, a pastel pink reminiscent of innocence and pureness. Now that we have listed the most important fundamentals, it's most important to point out that they all work in unison. You can't talk color without light and shadow, or perspective without composition, or anatomy without gesture, and so on and so forth. They all contribute and are a big part of making your art work great. We hope this video helped you at least get an idea of art fundamentals and kickstart your journey into learning them and making you and your art better than you were yesterday. Comment below if you think that we've missed something or if you have any other suggestions. Thank you for watching as always, and see you next time.